What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out a brand new e-bike. The one that we have today is called the Gen X e-bike. So you can get this bike powered by a 250 watt motor like this one, or you can get it powered by a 500 watt motor. You can also get a different style of frame, but everything else is about the same about the bike. So let's start by doing a bit of an unboxing just so I can show you what comes in the box with this and what you have to do to get this ready and on the road. Alright, so this comes in a fairly big box. Of course, you do have to do a bit of an installation. The bike itself is not that heavy, so the weight of this is about 20 kilos, so definitely not the heaviest e-bike that I've seen, but you do have to do a bit of an installation and it is a bit time consuming. So you do have to put the front wheel together, the front mudguard, the light here. That front mudguard does take a while to put on. The handlebar has to be installed, the screen here, and on the back of this bike I also got a rack. Unfortunately, the rack was bent out of shape, so I wasn't actually able to install it. I had to take it off because it was just bent out of the box. Maybe it happened during transportation, but well, I could not use it. Aside from that, you also get a bunch of things that come in the box, like a helmet, a cover, and a bunch of other stuff. The bike has 27.5-inch wheels with 2.1 inches wide tires. So compared to most other urban city e-bikes that I got to try in the past, this one has somewhat thicker tires, and of course that will help the overall comfort whenever you're riding over terrain that's not that smooth. Now in the box there you're also going to get a thicker seat. So the one that comes pre-installed is this one right here, but this one is a bit uncomfortable. If you ride more than half an hour, well, it is uncomfortable. So I highly recommend that you install the other seat that comes in the box because it does look much more comfy than this one. The bike also has a front suspension here. It gets about 2 inches of travel, I'm gonna say, so nothing crazy, but again, it will help with the overall comfort when you're riding over uneven terrain. The bike also has hydraulic disc brakes on the front and on the back. These are 180 millimeter discs and they do work really well. The bike doesn't make any noise whenever you're riding. With a lot of e-bikes that have mechanical disc brakes, those ones seem to squeak a lot when you're riding. Well, that's not the case with this one, so really good braking power on this. Now, the 250 watt motor is fine as long as you're riding on flat surfaces, so no problem at all when you're riding like this. But when you get to hills, and if you do have a lot of steep hills as we do have here, there is just not enough power. So if you do live in an area that has a lot of hills, I highly recommend getting the 500 watt version of this bike because it will make your life much better. The bike is also equipped with a 7-gear Shimano shifter. Unfortunately, out of the box, this was really poorly adjusted, so I had to adjust it quite a bit because I would shift a gear, nothing would happen. I would shift another gear and then it would jump 2 gears. So I did have to adjust that a bit when I took the bike out of the box. On the front and of course on the back we have mud guards. These are made out of plastic. Luckily they don't make any noise whenever you're riding, and they do seem big enough that they would help with splashing, so you don't get splashed if you're riding when it's raining. Now here it rarely rains, so I never actually got to try the bike with rain. Now, one thing that I want to say about the front mudguard here, this rubber part of it, so it's kind of sticking out a bit. It's a bit too long, so whenever you are riding the bike and you're turning the handlebar, you do seem to hit that part of the mudguard with your foot, so I'm not a big fan of that. The bike is also equipped with a speed sensor. So the more expensive e-bikes typically get a torque sensor. The cheaper ones get a speed sensor, and this one is equipped with a speed sensor. The downside with this particular speed sensor that's used in this bike right here is the fact that whenever you stop pedaling, the bike still gives you power for another couple of seconds. It is a bit too long and sometimes you kind of want to stop, but the bike keeps going. So I'm not a fan of the speed sensor that's in this bike and the way it's kind of adjusted. It could have been much better in my opinion. Moving on to the handlebar. So the handlebar is nice and wide. Whenever you're riding, you do have plenty of space. Unfortunately, this cannot be adjusted in height. So whenever you're riding, you will find that you do have to put a bit of pressure on your wrists because your position of riding is not totally straight, is a bit more inclined towards the front. Some people may like that. I personally get a bit tired to ride like that. The grips here don't seem to move at all. They seem to be made out of this fake leather material. However, they do feel nice. The brake levers are made out of metal. Here we have some buttons on the left here and an accelerator on the left side as well. Now, unfortunately, due to regulations, of course, you cannot really use that accelerator to just accelerate without pedaling. So you always have to pedal whenever you are riding the bike. I'm not sure if you can unlock it to use just the accelerator, but as it comes out of the box, you can only use this whenever you start moving initially. The screen in the center of the handlebar here is fairly big. It does have quite a bit of information. You can see the battery that you have, the kilometers that you've done, and so on. And it is visible even in direct sunlight. So on a bright day like this, you can perfectly see that screen. So I can't really say anything about the screen, and it's more than you need for an e-bike. Moving to the right hand side of the handlebar, here we have the shifter. We also have the horn. It is fairly loud. So a fairly loud horn, of course, the other brake lever. For lights, we have one light here on the front. Nothing really special about that light. For nighttime, it's bright enough, but during the day, you can barely see it. And unfortunately, there is no light that comes installed on the bike for the rear. However, there are a couple of lights that come in the box, so you're gonna have to install one of those when you basically mount the bike together. Moving on to the battery pack. So the battery pack on this bike is actually inside the frame here. I kind of like the fact that it doesn't show anything because the bike almost doesn't look like an e-bike, and well, a lot of people do like this kind of look. Now at the bottom here, you can actually unlock the battery pack, and there is a on-off switch. A bit hard to actually get to it and actually see what's there. And the battery pack can also be removed. However, you're gonna have to lift up the bike in a way because the battery pack is too long and you cannot actually take it out if the bike is just sitting by itself on the kickstand. So a bit on the difficult side to actually remove that battery pack. I would have loved to see a different design for it because it's just not easily accessible, I'm gonna say. As for range, the manufacturer says that you can get about 120 kilometers on one charge. And of course, since we only have a 250 watt motor, maybe that's possible if you're riding in assistance level 1. But of course, on more hills that you go, the heavier you are, the colder it is outside, you will get less than that. I'm gonna say that you can easily get about 50 kilometers without worrying how you're riding the bike. Alright, so let me quickly show you how you would use the bike. So we basically have 3 buttons on the handlebar here. If you hold the M button pressed for about 3 seconds, the bike will turn on. From here we can adjust the assistance levels. For this video we'll do assistance level 3. And then you can start riding, that easy. So you have a couple of options when you start moving. You can start accelerating with the throttle. This takes you to about, I don't know, 3-4 kilometers an hour, so you can accelerate this way. So the bike will start going, but when you start pedaling, the bike will start assisting you. And I'll show you what I meant about the speed sensor. So I'm going to stop pedaling, and you can hear the bike keeps going for another 2 seconds or so. So I'm definitely not a fan of that extra time that it keeps accelerating. So you've heard that again. We'll do a bit of a brake test. So let's go to 5. And we'll do a brake test somewhere around here. So if you want, you can definitely lock those wheels very easily. But you can brake normally as well. So as I said, the brakes don't really make noise whenever you're riding. So that's pretty much it about riding this bike. The motor does make a bit of noise, but that's kind of normal. But overall, it's a fairly quiet experience when you're riding. And as I said, if you're riding on flat roads like here, no problem reaching that 25 kilometers an hour top speed. So yeah, this is how you ride this bike. So to quickly conclude this video, for the price the bike isn't necessarily bad. However, I was a bit disappointed by the fact that that rack that came in the box was bent out of shape. I was disappointed that the shifting system was not properly adjusted. I'm not a fan of that speed sensor that keeps going even though you stop pedaling, so that's definitely not great. So overall, the bike isn't anything special. It's not necessarily bad, but I feel that you can find better bikes out there that are somewhat cheaper as well. But overall, I guess it's not terrible, but it could be better. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.